Welcome to section 4 of chapter 3, which is find and use slopes of lines. So we have two objectives. First, we're going to calculate the slope of a line, and then we are going to use slope to determine if two lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So the first thing that I want to talk about is what is slope. Well, slope is the ratio of the change in y over the change in x. You probably learned it as rise over run, and it's the measure of the steepness of a line. Okay, slope formula. Well, first the symbol for slope is m, and then the formula is y2 subtract y1 over x2 minus x1. First thing we have to be able to do is if I give you a few lines, you have to be able to tell me if the slope is positive, negative, 0, or undefined. Some of you can just memorize this. Others of you, it's a little more difficult to memorize. Here's how I remember the slopes. I think of it like a face. Positive slope rises, negative slope falls. Undefined is like the nose, it's a vertical line. 0 is like the mouth, it's a horizontal line. Maybe we can give him some hair. Okay, so looking at the figure on the right, the slope that is positive is line M because it's rising. Negative is line K because it's falling. 0 is the horizontal line, which is J. And undefined is the vertical line, which is L. Okay, in example 2, we actually have to calculate the slope this time. So slope is y2 subtract y1 over x2 subtract x1, and we're given 2 points. Doesn't matter which one we call x1, which one we call point 1, and which one we call point 2. So I'm going to call this point 1, and I'm going to call that one point 2. Okay, so my y2 then is 3. My y1 is 8. So I'm going to have 3 subtract 8 divided by, because remember we have x comma y. x2 is going to be 2, because remember 2 comma 3 is 1 point. And then 4 is going to be my x2. 3 subtract 8 is negative 5. 2 subtract 4 is negative 2. My negatives cancel, so I end up with 5 over 2. And looking at my line, that makes sense. My line is rising, so it should have a positive slope. Moving on. I would like you to pause the video and try example 3 on your own, please. Okay, so for your y's, you should have done negative 5 subtract negative 11 over 4 subtract 12. If you did the reverse direction, that's fine. This becomes adding a positive, so it's 6 over negative 8, which simplifies to negative 3 over 4. Hopefully you got that right. If not, you need to go back and find your mistake, please. Okay, example 4, we're graphing. It says graph the line with a slope of negative 1.5 that passes through the point negative 1 comma 2. Well, going to negative 1 comma 2 is negative 1 up 2. So this is the point we are given. Our slope then is negative 1.5, which is the same as negative 3 over 2. And that's our rise over run. Now we have to remember a negative slope means the line should be falling. So if I rise negative 3, I'm going to go up 3, 1, 2, 3. Now if I go left 2, my line will be falling. If I were to go right 2, the line would be rising, it would be a positive slope. Starting back at our original point, this time I'm going to go down 3, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go right 2, so that again my line is falling, it has a negative slope. Last thing I need to do is connect these points. Okay, I know I'm going fast, so if you have some questions, write them down please, and we will talk about them in class. Okay, looking at example 5, we're going to skip this first part and go to here. It says, consider two lines with slopes of negative 7 and 5. Which line is steeper? Well, if I think of negative 7, that means I have a point. I'm going to go up 7 and over 1. So I went up 7 over 1. 5 means I'm going to go up 5 and over 1. So the line with a slope of -7 is going to be steeper because I'm rising more before I run one. No, that's a little confusing, but it's always the bigger number. Whether it's positive or negative doesn't matter. Example 6, we are going to leave for in class. So just skip that one, and the beginning of example 5 we'll also talk about in class. Now moving on to page 29. Okay, two postulates. Parallel lines have the same slope. So example, the slope would be 2 and 2. So two lines that have a slope of 2 are parallel. Perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. So if one line had a slope of 2, the reciprocal would be 1/2, and then opposite means the opposite sign, so -1/2. Quick note, undefined slopes are perpendicular to 0 slopes. So if a slope is undefined, its perpendicular is going to be 0. Okay, now I'm going to do example 7, you're going to do example 8, and then we are done with the first video. So line A passes through -1, 3, and 4, 1. Line B passes through -2, -1, and 3, -3. Are the lines parallel, perpendicular, or neither? Well, first I'm going to find the slope of line A. So it's y minus y, 3 minus 1, over x subtract x, -1 subtract 4. 3 minus 1 is 2. -1 subtract 4, it's like adding a -4, is -5. Line B, subtracting my y's, I have -1 subtract -3. And then I'm going to have -2 subtract 3. -2 subtract 3. This becomes adding a positive, so it's 2 over -5. My slopes are the same, so that means A is going to be parallel to B. Okay, right now, pause the video and do example 8 on your own, please. Okay, so you should have found the slope to be -7 subtract -2 over 3 subtract 6. It's like adding a positive, so it's -5 over -3, which is 5/3. So that's the original slope. The slope that's perpendicular then is going to be the reciprocal, 3 over 5, and it's going to be negative, the opposite sign. Hopefully that went well for you. If not, fix your mistake. If you can't figure it out or you still have questions, please bring them to class. So this video, we calculated slope, and then we determined if lines were parallel, perpendicular, or neither. Whatever questions you have, please bring them to class. See you tomorrow.